their higher education experience. The best to all of you. I have the honor this evening of introducing our commencement speaker. I think of Trustee Dan McElroy as a man who wears two hats. To the citizens of Minnesota, he is the Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development. For those of us within the MnSCU system, he is a very respected and valued member of our Board of Trustees. Trustee McElroy is an exemplary model of a dedicated public servant. In addition to his current service to Minnesota, Trustee McElroy has served as Governor Palente's Chief of Staff and as a Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Finance. Prior to that, he served in the Minnesota State House of Representatives for 8 years, and he was also Mayor of Burnsville for 8 years. We are delighted that we have Trustee McElroy with us this evening. Graduates and friends, please join me in extending a very warm welcome to our commencement speaker, the Honorable Dan McElroy.
Thank you. President Lundblad, thank you for that nice introduction. And the tradition would be for me to recognize everybody from what they think of as the top down. I don't see it that way. You're at the top tonight. So greetings to the students who are graduating tonight, to your parents and grandparents, brothers and sisters, husbands and wives, children, maybe some grandchildren. Congratulations to you, and thanks to you for your support. We recognize individual graduates, but it's whole teams that make this possible. I know all of you had great support systems helping you to decide to do this, taking over burdens you may have had in raising kids or helping parents, and many of you work full-time. So congratulations. Could I see a show of hands to how many of you worked 20 hours a week or more while going to school? A lot. All right, can I show a show of hands of those who also helped take care of kids while you were going to school? Yeah, they don't just go to school. They're triple hitters, and we're very proud of you. And I actually get to do 3 roles tonight. It makes the program shorter, which is good news. On behalf of the trustees, I am here to say the 15 men and women who are trustees of the whole system. Try to have someone at each of these graduations to say that on behalf of the system, congratulations, we're proud of you. There are 34,000 men and women of all ages graduating during the course of the year, to add more than 300,000 alumni that have been graduating from the 32 colleges and universities on 54 campuses across the state that make up this great system. And we're delighted to have you graduate. As Commissioner of Employment and Economic Development, I'm glad to have you in our workforce. And that may seem a little strange when we have 7.7% unemployment. But if you look at people like me with gray hair who hope to retire at some point, although not soon. My wife said to me recently she married me for better or for worse, but not for all day. So I'm not going to retire anytime soon, but the facts are that many of us will want to retire. And some of you I know are concerned, or others have said, boy, you're graduating at a bad time. There aren't a lot of jobs out there. Every retirement in my generation is going to be a job opportunity for you, and that's a good thing. I am not an economist, but I pick on economists a lot. What I am in my role is I'm a policy wonk. And you know that wonk is no spelled backwards. Did you know that? All right. I'm also sometimes called a nerd, which was a character in a Dr. Seuss book, or a nefarious engineer in research and development. But a big part of my job is to pick on economists, and I have lots of good material to pick on economists. George Bernard Shaw once said, if you take all the economists in the world and lay them end to end, they will not reach a conclusion. Or John Kenneth Galbraith, who was himself an economist, said the best reason to have economists is to make astrologers look reputable. But my favorite was Harry Truman, President of the United States from 1945 to 1952. He said all economists should be required to speak only when they have both hands in their pockets. So they can't say on the one hand this and on the other hand exactly the opposite. But turning to the science of economics, I am asked every day about the recession that we have been going through. It is no secret we are coming through the longest and deepest recession since World War II. It is just a little longer and a little deeper than the recessions in 1982 and 1975. It has lasted, when the official numbers are over, we've probably lasted 22 or 23 months. We reached unemployment rates in Minnesota of about 8.4% at its peak, 10.4% nationally. We're beginning to see signs that that's getting better. However, it's not the only economic pressure, and I would argue opportunity that we face as a local community, a national community, and part of a global community. 50 years ago next January, John Kennedy gave his inaugural address, and in it he said something we've been repeating often for the last 5 decades. He brought to our attention that the Chinese character for crisis is a combination of the characters for danger and opportunity. Very wise and interesting thing, and we face some pressures on our economy over the next few decades, the decades in which you have to assume the chief burden of our economy, that are both challenge and opportunity. When I think about challenge and opportunity, I think of a metaphor of standing on a beach with an enormous wave coming toward you. And the question is that wave a threat or an opportunity? And it depends on what you do with it. If you're on a surfboard and you're out and you've paddled out and you're ready at the crest of the wave and you get to ride it in, it's a great kick. It's a lot of fun and it's a great thrill. If you're sitting reading a book with your back to the wave on a lawn chair up against the rocks and not paying attention, it's pretty serious. I feel that same way about these 3 big picture, long-term economic trends that are coming toward us. And you're the ones who are going to need to deal with it. The trends are these. One is rapidly changing demographics. For the first time in recorded history, a whole society is getting older. 30% more Minnesotans turned 62 last year than in the year prior to that, in 2008 than in 2007. And that number gets bigger every year for 25 years. Today, there are about 50 people in their prime, in their dependent years for every 100 people who are working. That almost doubles over the next 25 years. So those of you in healthcare are going to have lots of customers. Those of you paying taxes are going to have an interesting challenge with more people needing service and fewer people being in their prime earning years. It also changes the way we will compete around the world. An aging demographic is both a challenge and an opportunity. We're also in, the second challenge is the rapid globalization of our economy. The U.S. economy has always been part of Western Europe or Japan, but the whole world is beginning to covet the quality of life that we have. The gross domestic product per person in the United States is $47,000. In parts of Africa, it's $100. In Haiti, it's $800. In fairly intelligent countries, countries with great educations like China, the GDP per capita in China is less than $4,000. They covet our standard of living and will work really hard to get to the kind of standard of life that we have. And now we can see that as a danger, as the export of jobs, or as greater competition for our livelihood, or as enormous markets that we have the opportunity to serve and to provide the goods and services and to share wealth with. Wealth is not a zero-sum game. If we do this right, there can be more prosperity for all of us in the 21st century, but it's going to take hard work and leadership and technology and speed of delivery. We can't rest on our laurels. The U.S. has been an enormously successful country for 200 years, 230 years, but the success is not a birthright. The success is something we've earned and will have to continue to earn. We're also doing this in the face of a third threat, and that's an energy change. The Industrial Revolution of the late 18th and 19th century was a change in energy, from animal power and water power and human power to steam and electricity. The Green Revolution will also be a change in energy and greenhouse gas emissions and a variety of other things. And I don't know if it's going to happen in 10 or 20 or 50 years, but it's going to happen. There's a finite amount of the way we've gained energy in the past. There will be green jobs that we've heard about. There will also be green challenges. But the opportunity to embrace those rests with your generation, not likely mine. In that same speech when John Kennedy talked about opportunity and danger, he said these very famous words. He said, "Let the word go out at this time and from this place to friend and foe alike that the mantle of leadership has changed to a new generation." Now, John Kennedy died in 1963. Barack Obama was born in 1963. And the generation that's of the 50s and 60s that's coming to power today will not last forever. And behind them is your generation that need to assume the mantle of leadership in our economy and in our communities and in our schools and in the way we are competitive in the world. We only have 3 choices as a community, and you in your career